Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hello and welcome to Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women, podcast for you and me. We're both investors and often professionals, business owners, and it's the way we invest that makes a difference, okay? So obviously win-win for everybody, profitable, but also we're not really into all that smoke and mirrors type techniques. I mean, right now is a good time to do those techniques, obviously, but not permanently. And, all the creative purchasing techniques have their place. It's just not every place, although right now would be a pretty good time to exercise them. In any case, if you haven't already subscribed, please feel free to do so. It's on Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadio, you name it, downloaded in nearly 50 countries now. And if you want to become a member, it's easy. Just go to realestatewithgarywilson.com, click on member. Next page, if you're already a member, you just go in there, you know what to do. If you're not, check it out for free on the right-hand side. Get all kinds of information, just loads and loads of links, content material, strategies, calculators, spreadsheets, all for free, okay? Not to mention the weekly live webinars we do. We just did one last night. So in any case, do that, and you'll be able to check things out. We have agents. We've trained thousands of them to work with us investors specifically. They're certified. You got to look for that certification. Certified investor agent, okay? They know how to work with us investors. So check all that out. And right now we've got a pretty awesome subject today. A company called Ugly Mug Marketing, okay? Wayne's here to share his wisdom with you. He's down in Louisiana. And Wayne, welcome aboard, man. I appreciate you taking your valuable time to share your skills and knowledge with everybody.
Thank you so much, Gary. I look forward to our conversation.
Awesome. Hey, if you wouldn't mind, Wayne, just a quick, give us a background on, who you are, how you got there, and give us all the good, juicy details too, man. So,
yeah, absolutely. So Ugly Mug Marketing is now in our 11th year in business. And the way that we ended up in this business and how it came to be actually started back when I was a junior in college. And for whatever reason, one year for Christmas, my parents decided to give me some CDs by this man of the name Zig Ziglar. And I don't know why they decided to give me those CDs, but for many of you listening, especially if you're in real estate or sales of any sort, you're probably at least familiar with his name. He was known for his sales training and his motivational talking. Well, those CDs did a great job of telling me and convincing me that sales was the greatest profession in the world. And so in my junior year of college, I decided to actually shift and pivot my major because I, at that point, wanted to go into sales. So, fast forward a couple of years, I exit college, I get a job in sales, I hone my skills and learned a lot, school of hard knocks, so to speak. And what I realized after a couple of years in sales was I saw the money that I was making for my employer at the time, which I was in advertising sales. And you know what I said? I'm making all this money. I'm knocking on doors. I'm working really hard. What if I did something for myself and started selling for myself? And so at the time, the only really other set of skills that I had besides selling was in lawn and landscape. I'd done that through high school and college. And so despite, kind of words of wisdom from a lot of people, I left my really good sales job and started a lawn and landscape company. Over the course of that next 3 years, I grew that company very rapidly and ended up selling that company. But in the course of that growth, I had a lot of our actual clients of the lawn company and friends of mine come to me and say, how are you growing so quickly? Can you help us with our sales and marketing? And so it was out of that process that Ugly Mug Marketing was really born.
Awesome. Well, I tell you what, interesting name, a company name too, by the way. And I read your story and I love the story. It's pretty intriguing. Would you mind sharing a little bit about how that came about? The actual company itself, the name, where you were and what were you doing, when it came about?
Yeah, absolutely. So the name itself actually comes from a gentleman by the name of David Ogilvy. David Ogilvy actually came over to America back in the late 50s, I believe, maybe early 60s. And rumor has it that he had $40 in his pocket. He lands in New York City and he says that I'm going to build the world's largest ad agency from right here. And 15 years later, he had done exactly that. Ogilvy and Mather, for a long time, was the world's largest ad agency. They're still in the top 10 to this day. But David Ogilvy had a saying, and that saying was this: give me an ad that is ugly, that gets results, instead of one that's beautiful, that doesn't. And so the name Ugly Mug Marketing really stems from that core belief that in a world where there's so much kind of shiny objects and glitz and glamour around all these things, that we want to stay focused on the things that drive results for our clients. So that's where it comes from. That's where the name actually comes from.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. Hey, so let's just take an example. So, obviously you're in Alexandria, Louisiana, a beautiful part of the country. If anybody's never been there, I recommend you go down there and go on an alligator sightseeing tour and get some real cooking. The best food in the world can be found in Louisiana. So, but let's take an example. Like right now, I'm going to kind of timestamp this podcast with all this going on with the coronavirus and lockdown and all that going across U.S. and Canada and most of the world for that matter. Some industries are being hit, like the restaurants, movie theaters, gyms, just a lot of those industries, but one in particular is near and dear to my heart, and it's the dental business. When these guys are out there, they're entrepreneurs, man. They're serving people individually, one-on-one, and they're now being told, they've got to kind of do just emergency-only procedures, so they're a little bit scrambling. But what would it, and let's take that picture, and because we're optimistic, we know we're going to be moving out of this gradually going forward. So how can this person prepare themselves marketing wise, as far as like branding and advertising, maybe on a shoestring budget, so that as we come out and the veil lifts, they're not just surviving, they're thriving. So and you maybe even talked with people in the last week about this specific subject, but what ideas or what suggestions might you have for that kind of person,
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. We find ourselves in a very unique and challenging time right now. For some businesses, for some of our clients, they're thriving right now based on the industry they're in. For others, like you said, they are on kind of the brunt end of this, and they're having to either shut down or work on, kind of way scale back hours and staffing. And so although there's not a one-size-fits-all answer, this is what I would tell you across the board for anyone listening to this right now. In terms of marketing, particularly on social media channels, so Facebook, Instagram are the two primary. Mm-hmm. Right now, we are seeing ad cost the lowest it's been in 6 or 7 years. Mm-hmm. So you're able to get your message in front of people today more effectively and cheaper than you were 6 and 7 years ago. So It's a tremendous opportunity right now to, one, put your message in front of people, but two, build goodwill in that process. Now, there's a couple of different things that I would say here. So if we stick with the dentist example, so you've got a dental practice and you've been forced to scale back to only emergency type of patients. One thing that you could look at doing right now is you've got an active list of previous patients. So it's the patients who come in every year for a cleaning or every 6 months for a cleaning, whatever it may be. The ones who come in for different types of work that are scheduled. One thing you could look at doing right now is, even though you can't see them, what if you put together a package? So normally a cleaning is, I'm making this up, but normally a cleaning is $150. And your patients come in on average twice a year for that. So what if you put a package together that said normally your annual cleaning would run you $300 for your 2 visits. But given the current situation, we're making a special offer just for you if you pre-buy those cleanings. So instead of $300 out of pocket or whatever the figure is, it's now going to be $200. So you could look for opportunities to pre-sell services that people are going to need, they're going to have in the future, but you're giving them some form of incentive to act now. Because the biggest challenge that a lot of businesses are facing right now is going to be a cash flow issue, right? Mm-hmm. So anything that they can do to stimulate cash flow now is going to be beneficial to them.
Yeah, I agree. We call it, of course, I'm a real estate investor myself and a broker, although I don't actively serve clients right now. I teach the agents how to do that. but we call that shaking the tree. Basically, get something out to your database, get a message out to your database, something meaningful or relevant, something they can use, and also a call to action. Give them, make an offer and that they can't refuse. Like what's the movie, The Godfather? Make them an offer they can't refuse.
Yeah.
Make it so brain dead dumb that they have to say yes. And there's two purposes for this. You have to get the low hanging fruit. So when you shake the trees, apples will fall out right to the ground. That's your low hanging fruit. And others would be like, I get it, but I need to wait a little bit. Now's not the time. We nurture those folks with meaningful, relevant information. So the dentist practice, they can automate much of this. I mean, they could have like a regular weekly something goes out to their database. If you can't get toothpaste, what can you use? And just things like, I'm just making this stuff up here, but what would you? I mean, as far as that type of outgoing message, outflow is going to generate the inflow. Yep. Can they use Facebook to communicate with their clients? Should they be using email or some combination? I know older folks are more on Facebook, younger folks are more on Instagram, things like that. But aside from that segmentation, are the things they can do that they can automate? If they have the information, could you help them automate how to get that information out to their clients and prospects?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things is, everyone consumes information differently, like you were saying, depending on the segment, the market that you're targeting. So what we recommend is using a multimodal method. So in other words, put the same message out on Facebook that you put out on Instagram that you send out via email. And the reason is this: will some people see it on all three places? Yes, but that will be the minority. Most of the people will only consume that information in one place. And we often hear people say, well, I don't want to overwhelm people with too much. And what I would tell you is, during times like we find ourselves in today, you cannot over communicate. Communication is key. And in one aspect, yes, businesses are, and a lot of this is forced to scale back. But what that has done right now is it's created an abundance of time for the entrepreneur, for the business owner, for, the real estate agent, for the investor. Utilize that time right now to strengthen those relationships. And that's exactly what you're talking about is, sit down, grab some old school thank you notes, a pen and paper, write some thank you notes to your best clients saying, thank you so much for your support over the years. I look forward to doing business with you again in the future. Again, there's two types of people when we find ourselves in the situation that we're in. Those who sit by and wait on this to pass, and those who leverage this opportunity that we find ourselves in, which for many is an abundance of time. And if we can leverage that time, this will end. This period that we're in, that's so tough for so many, will end. I can't tell you when it's going to end, but it will end. So I would encourage you, instead of being reactive and waiting on the news, waiting on things to happen to you, be proactive. Get out there, just like you said, Gary, and communicate with your audience in those different areas. Yeah,
I agree 100%. This is my fifth recession I've been through, and I don't even get worried anymore. I mean, I'm not trying to sound glib. I've been through it enough. I know the key to success is just to take action. So I always tell people, look, if you've got that I'll wait and see attitude, or I don't know what to do, man, your chances of survival are not too great. But if you can just relax, have a little bit of faith, okay, every morning get up and give yourself some positive news. Turn off the TV, by the way, and feed your mind some positive news, and ask yourself, well, if what I did won't work right now, what can I do right now? And sometimes you don't know if it's going to work. That's why you try things. That's why we get in the game in baseball. That's why we swing the bat. You don't know which pitch you're going to hit. That's why you swing the bat. So I always tell people, we can never tell who's going to succeed through these things, but we know this. In hindsight, the ones who succeeded are the ones who took action. They might not have had the best plan at the outset, but they worked the plan and they tweaked it and modified it as they went forward. So everybody out there listening, man, I know it's tempting to cut off your marketing advertising budgets, and I get it, because you want to get brutal on expenses, but you've also got to go on offense. You've got to play defense and offense. And too many people go the defense and forget about the offense. And then they go into debt because they'll take out loans to make it through. And the fact is I'm looking outside right now. There's 20 homes being developed right in front of me. I'm watching it right now. The world hasn't stopped, guys, okay? In fact, we believe, at least in the U.S., I can't speak for Canada. I don't have Canadian stats right now. But we believe the GDP is on pace for a 25% decline. I think it's actually going to be a little bit worse, but I'm not worried about it because I know what that means is if the pundits are right, that means 75% of the business is still going on. So the question is, how can you participate in that business, okay? If your dental practice is on hold right now, though the emergency services, start marketing to the people whose industries are still intact, like food, medicine, transportation. Those industries, those people are still working. Firemen, policemen still have jobs. Teachers, even though they're teaching online, they're still getting paid. So market to those folks, okay? Maybe they can't get a cleaning today because you're not allowed to do that in the office right now, but in a couple weeks, when the veil's lifted, you're in prime shape. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about in a practical sense is look at the data, look at the information, and then you'll know what to do relative to that data and the information. Let's do that. Hey, would you mind if we took another example, Wayne, like the example of a realtor? I don't know if you've worked with realtors in the past, but some things they can do now, like maybe do some YouTube, have owners walk around the house, filming the house that want to sell, send it to the agent. The agent can create a YouTube video. Just little things like that don't take a lot of money and just a little bit of creativity. But what are you thinking or seeing or have you seen in the past that might work?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I answer that specific question for realtors, let me just kind of piggyback on something you just mentioned, Gary, and that is that, when business and when the economy tends to contract, in other words, like you said, you saw numbers where it looks like the GDP is going to be down 25%, I think is what you said. What is important to understand when you start thinking and feeling the pressure, most people, like you said, start looking to make cuts. And that's logical. That's often a wise thing to do. But the problem with that as it relates to marketing and advertising is that when you begin cutting marketing and advertising, what you are cutting is you're cutting potential revenue in the future. And here's why most people end up cutting marketing and advertising is because they view it as an expense. And what I can tell you without a doubt is that when you do your marketing well, marketing is always an investment. Now, does that mean you're always going to get a positive return? No, it's just like any other investment. Sometimes you're not going to get the positive return you were hoping for. But when you do your marketing strategically and proactively, it is an investment. And if you're measuring the results that come back from that, you will get a return on that investment over time. And so I would encourage those listening, although your natural tendency right now may be to cut back on those things, I would encourage you to actually look at it from the opposite perspective. And we all know this is going to sound very cliche, but all of the quote unquote big time investors, so Warren Buffett, during recessions is when they make their money. It's when they go into action. It's when they buy. When everyone else is selling, they are buying. And what I can tell you right now, firsthand experience, so just for point of reference here, we run thousands and thousands of campaigns on social media every single year. And we spend lots and lots of money for ourselves and for our clients. And what I can tell you, and I mentioned this earlier, is right now is the perfect time to be investing in your advertising on social. And the reason is this. One, ads are very inexpensive right now, the lowest we've seen them in 6 or 7 years. And two, given the state of the world that we're in right now, so many people at home, social media usage is at an all-time high. More people are on social media for longer periods of time right now than at any point in history. Now, that's speculation. That's just based on observation. Those numbers won't publicly be out till next quarter probably from all the social media platforms. But I can tell you, now's the opportunity to keep your message in front of those people.
I agree 100%. If when you cut off your outreach, which is your marketing advertising, you're restricting your funnel, and there's always a lag effect. It's an inertia thing. So whatever you're doing today in marketing is going to show up 1 or 2 months later, right? In your bottom line.
Yep.
So it's a tough pill to swallow for people. I get it, but you know what? The SBA's got some amazing loan packages right now. Just go out there. I have students who are doing this and they're telling me, it's like they were done in like 10 minutes. I thought, with government, I thought this would be like a 5-hour thing. Go wait in line, all this kind of stuff. That's not what they're saying. So I would get out there and bring in some low cost funds so you can keep your marketing machine going, because marketing, guys, is an absolute momentum machine. In other words, if you start and stop, you're going to do what's called porpoising. You'll recognize it in your bottom line. So if you keep it going, it tends to take on a life of its own. Sometimes you do still your core marketing, but because of things like online, they call something went viral. If you're not putting anything out there, nothing's going to go viral, right? So let's do this with the realtor. If you've worked with them in the past, any ideas or suggestions? And also want to talk about next. I'll cue you up with 2 questions here. Is up till a couple of weeks ago, we were one of the best economies we've ever seen in the United States, ever in the history of the world. And now it's looking like we're quickly going down to the bottom. But relative to the top and the bottom, the fact that we always want to stay active, are there different marketing strategies we should be using in an up market versus a down market, or different messaging? Like one of the things Warren Buffett said, for example, in the past is, when everybody's being greedy, it's time to be fearful. When everybody's being fearful, it's time to be greedy, which is, like you said, when everybody's selling out of fear, the people who are calm and stable move in and gobble up all the goodies. But because I just kind of loaded you up there, Wade, I'm sorry. But let's do the second one first. Let's talk about timing and where we are in the market. Do we change marketing strategies or messaging? And if we have time after that, maybe we can talk about a realtor, for example,
Yeah, absolutely. So your strategy as a marketer. So I personally believe that every business owner, every entrepreneur, whether that's a realtor, whether that is somebody who's a dentist, that your top priority is sales and marketing, right? I understand that you've got things you have to fulfill, but if you're not constantly paying attention to the funnel, the flow in, over time, that's going to come back to bite you. And so one of the very first things that I would say for everyone listening, whether it's an uptime or a downtime, there's 2 questions that you should ask, and every single person on your team should have to answer these questions every single day. And the first one is, what have I done to attract a customer today? What have I done to attract a customer today? Now, the second part of that directly parlays into that, and it's, what have I done to keep a customer today? So this is looking back. This is looking at the clients we've served in the past. What have I done to keep a customer today? Now, the frequency and the number of those conversations during downtime should be up. In other words, you shouldn't be doing, what have I done to attract 1 customer today? It's, what have I done to attract 2 or 3 or 4 customers today? And then the flip side of that is, what have I done to keep customers today? And what I would say, I'm going to kind of put these 2 questions together into one, the realtor question and talking about ups and downs, is this, that so often, so many of us, and I'm guilty of this as well, we get stuck in this mentality of the next transaction, right? Yeah. And I know that we've worked with realtors in the past and, different groups, and the mentality, if we're not careful, becomes a transaction. What I mean by that is getting my next listing, getting my next house sold. And there's a whole nother side to that. And that is where we would call, what we would call building or creating evangelists. And so when you think of any sales and marketing process, we have this simple formula that we've kind of laid out. It's called the natural progression. So if you think of an old analog clock hanging on the wall, right? So at the top, you've got the 12 o'clock spot. And at that 12 o'clock spot is what we would call strangers. So that's all the people out there in the world who you believe may be a good fit for your product or service. Those are all strangers out there. Then over at 3 o'clock, so if you just visualize over at 3 o'clock, you've got friends. Now, friends are people who know about you. They like what it is that you provide, but they're not yet customers. So no money's exchanged hands. Yeah. Then down at 6 o'clock is customers. That is where the transaction takes place. Now, here's what's so vitally important as we look at that just very basic, part of the clock. What most people do, it doesn't matter the industry, whether it's dentist, realtor, investor, it doesn't matter. We invest the majority of our time, energy, and effort trying to convince strangers to become friends and those friends to become customers. That is where 98+% of everyone's marketing advertising budget gets spent. The problem is what we're looking at a transaction, right? We're looking at the exchange of money, and then we move on looking for the next stranger that we convert to a friend, and then a friend to a customer. Well, at 9 o'clock on the other side of the clock, across from 3 o'clock, there's what we would call evangelists. Those are people who know about us, they've purchased from us, and they love us so much. They love our product or service. They love us that they're willing to go out and evangelize, tell their friends, their family, their clients, their coworkers about us. And when we do that, when we have evangelists working for us, what happens is it bypasses all of the strangers out there because they're going directly to their friends and family. And so one litmus test that anyone listening can give themselves is to ask yourself this: am I spending what percentage of my marketing advertising budget to move people to become customers versus converting my customers into evangelists for my company? Now, if we take that same analogy, the clock analogy, and we look at what takes place between each step. So in other words, to move somebody from a stranger to a friend, this is basic sales here, but to move somebody from a stranger to a friend, there's 2 elements required. One, they have to know about us. They're never going to become our friend if they don't know about us. And they have to like us, meaning if I'm a Democrat and I'm out there, preaching my Democrat propaganda, then you're Republican, chances are you're not going to like me. And flip the switch the other way. If I'm Republican, vice versa, you're probably not going to like me. So you're never going to give me money, right? It'd be like a Democrat person who's been Democrat, loves the Democrat Party, donating to Republicans. Probably not going to happen. They don't like what they stand for. Then to move people from a friend to a customer, the one element that is required there is trust.
Yeah.
They have to trust that we're going to deliver on what we say we're going to deliver. If we complete those 3 things, know, like, and trust, that's when the dollars change place. The dollars change hands, right? Yeah. And sadly, though, that's where we leave it, right? We get the dollars, we make the transaction, then we're off to the next, trying to convert the next person over. But if you were to go to a realtor and you were to ask them, where do your best new customers, clients come from? The answer is going to be their referral, word of mouth. Somebody told somebody else. And yet, we know that's true, and it's true for most businesses. So dental practice is true. For our business, it's true. It's true for a lot of businesses. And yet, as marketers, as entrepreneurs, business owners, we devote so little time, energy, and effort into engineering ways to help convert our customers into evangelists. So to specifically answer your 2 questions now, that was a long walk around to that. But to answer those 2 questions is this: what should you be doing different now is this: you more than likely have an abundance of time. So I would challenge you to go back to your client base, the ones who've given you money now or at this point, and find ways to build meaningful relationships with them, to convert them into evangelists for your product, your service, your brand, your company. Right. You've got an abundance of time. Take advantage of that opportunity now.
Yeah, I agree 100%. One of the things we do in our business is, I teach the realtors how to work with the investors. And one of the challenges for the realtors is well, a lot of these investors are new and they need information. What do I give them? How do I get them to be educated enough to be willing to make a decision? So we actually give them what that is. We give the realtors the content to give to the investors, as well as the marketing to attract them. So now they can nurture that prospect. And then eventually the investor is going to say, I get it. Let's go. I want to go ahead and buy something. So it's all that nurturing you're doing, and we actually give them what they need. So you're exactly right. Right now is a perfect time, everybody, to yes, you want to be brutal on expenses, but but you've got to go on offense. You got to play defense and offense too. You can't do just one or the other. And if you can will yourself to take action, do some marketing right now, chances are you'll get maybe 1 or 2 transactions, better than none. But number 2 is you're positioning yourself in your clients' minds through know you, like you, trust you, to use you front of mind presence as opposed to somebody else when their time is right. Could be another 2 weeks, 6 weeks, we don't know. People are saying 30 days, some people are saying 90 days. I don't even care about all that stuff. I don't even own a television, quite frankly. What I do is I do what I can do today, okay? I take stock of everything in the morning. I just wake up and give a big prayer of thanks and think, you know what? I'm here and my clients are here and we're working together and I'm helping them succeed and they love it. I get fulfilled by it. So you can do the same thing. Hey, if you wouldn't mind, Wayne, we're kind of getting close here and I want to make sure, I know you've got a lot to offer people and you definitely service people directly. But anybody who's interested in working with you or getting some of your information, maybe you've written a book, you've got a blog, would you mind sharing some of that, links, phone numbers, things like that, or anything you have to offer? Let's go ahead and do that so while people are still paying attention, because I think what you do is extremely, extremely important, particularly right now,
Yeah, so the best way for people to connect or find us is through our website, and that's just uglymugmarketing.com. From there, you can go to all of our social channels. They're all linked there. One thing that I would say, just given the situation that we find ourselves in, just a few days back, we did a couple-hour Facebook Live, and you'll find it on our Facebook page, where we literally kind of unveil and walk you through behind the scenes of exactly what we're doing right now for all of our social media clients. So in light of all the changes in the marketplace, what exactly are we doing? How have we pivoted all of our strategies and tactics? So you can find that on our page. It's there. It's about 2 hours long.
Okay.
And you can kind of go through that and see literally behind the scenes. We show you the exact copy we're using for some of our clients. One of them is actually a dental practice.
Okay, cool.
And show you the ads that we're running, the ad spend that we're spending. So that's the best place to go. Pretty much everything we do ends up on Facebook and shared there.
Yeah. It's amazing. I've had people call me up out of the blue and say, and this goes back a couple of years, and people would record me teaching or something and put it on their own YouTube channel. And I didn't really know what all was happening behind the scenes. I just said, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, sure. Help your folks out. And I get a call, somebody, hey, I just saw on YouTube, do you still teach that class? I'm like, well, yeah. I didn't have to do anything. It was like the sale was made right there because they saw me teach online from something on a website of someone that they already knew, liked, and trusted. So when you talked about creating evangelists, I had an evangelist. I wasn't even aware of it. And because of that, they short-circuited the whole stranger part of the business. They went right to know you, like you, trust you. So I'm telling you, I'm living proof that it works, guys. Just do it. So go to Wayne's website, uglymugmarketing.com, and look at that Facebook Live. I'm going to watch it myself, okay? I suggest you do the same. And everybody listening, I want to tell you thank you for listening. If you haven't subscribed yet, please feel free to do so. You can see this isn't just about buying a duplex or flipping a home. A lot of us are business owners like me, and we're constantly helping each other in our businesses so that you can invest in real estate. You go to the Real Estate with Gary Wilson website, click on members area, check it out. On the right-hand side is where you get the free look. Tons of stuff out there. All right, but God bless you all. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Stay safe. And Wayne, thank you, dude, for taking your precious time to share what you got with all the listeners. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say thank you from the bottom of my heart,
Thank you so much. I enjoyed the conversation, Gary.
Excellent. Okay, take care, guys. We'll see you on the next podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.